Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Really nice to have 5 of you here, and I'm hoping more will join in as we take this conversation forward. So we'll be giving you a brief overview of M.Des in Information Art and Information Design Practices at Srishti Manipal Institute. We've been running this program from 2015, and we have had exceptional graduates from the program. And we're really looking forward to build it up and to have more of you joining us. Largely, this program is quite a fascinating program to have in this information age. I think when all of us are struggling with how do we deal with information, how do we deal with this information overload, how to think about it with wisdom, how to think about it with intelligence and creativity, that really lies at the heart and essence of this program. And we've been looking at different aspects of how the world deals with information, how India deals with information, and what do we need to bring to the table for the now and the future, right? So that's really the context in which we have built up this program. In terms of the areas of work that we do, one is just information processing. How do you think about information? How do you think about diverse practices of information? Now, information is ubiquitous, right? It is everywhere. It could be in the field of medicine. It could be in the field of artificial intelligence. It could be in the field of consumerism. It could be in the field of just sciences. It could be in the field of conservation related work. It could be in the field of language, literature, arts, theater. It's everywhere. We're talking about everything in the world under this umbrella term called information, right? So how do you then navigate this information? What are the different aspects that we bring out? How do we tell stories that matter? And how do we understand even to tell what a story is? When the information is complex, it's paradoxical, it seems like it's endless, right? How do you curate that information? And how do you make sense of what's really very, very complex out there in the world where everything intersects with everything else? So these are some of like the very big questions that we ask in this program. And what we do is we investigate it through context. We look at information in relation to a context, in relation to a community, in relation to ourselves. And we ask at the intersection of these three things, the context, the community, and the self, how does information take shape? How can we communicate it? How can we get people to understand it? How can we make it more meaningful? And how can we make many things accessible? How can we make many things interpretive? How can we make it imaginative? How can we make it exciting? How can we make it really worth our time on this planet? So that's really where the heart of this program lies. And we've been working with the self and consciousness as ways to intersect with information. We have been looking at paradox and complexity. We have been looking at context sensitivity and everything through this whole approach of storytelling and narrative thinking. Before I sort of open up the session to others, I just want to tell a little story about how we started this program. Me and another colleague, when we started designing this program together, the first question we asked ourselves was pretty much perhaps where all of you are starting from. What is this program? What is this information arts and information design? And we said, is this, is it happening only in 2021? Is it happening only in 2015? Will it happen in 2023? Or did it happen long before? Were we always working with information as human beings? And if we did, how did we work with it? How did we work with it when there were no cell phones, when there were no computers, when there was no internet? What was information then? How did people from one civilization talk about or translate their ideas and concepts to another civilization somewhere else across the planet? So we found it fascinating to look back historically and say, how did information move? And we realized that it was storytellers who moved the information. There were bards, there were poets, there were storytellers of all kinds, there were gestures, and each of them took information traveling from one end to the another. And I think that's really the spirit of being human, this ability to tell stories. And that's at the heart of this program. How meaningfully do you live your life as a human, taking your stories and other stories along with you? So with that, I'll open the space to others to interact. Krishna, I would like to invite you to sort of step in and talk about varied facets that you bring to the program, and also a little bit about the diversity of faculty that we have on board.
Thanks a lot, Srini. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this short yet crisp and interactive session. My name is M.Des Krishna. I'm with Information Arts and Information Design. By trade, liking, and inclination, I'm an architect, toy and game designer, and a design manager. And to speak in a nutshell, I'm basically a maker at heart. Within Information Arts and Information Design, the most amazing part or the most fascinating part about this discipline is there is no one way to look at it. Just like she was saying, the word information in itself is something which is very fascinating and it's very multidimensional. And there are too many different ways in which you can unpack it. And my way of unpacking information arts and information design is primarily through games and narratives. Narratives is a very, very broad word. Anything to everything is a narrative, anything to everything is a story. But what makes games an interesting part is that it is a story which has got a very specific start, a very specific end. But what makes it interesting, or what is it that what generates the information within that, is the entire pathway in the middle. Simple example, you play snakes and ladders, you play it once. You can play it in a certain way. You play it the second time, I can assure you it'll never happen the first way you play. It'll never happen the way you played the first time. It'll be different. Your journey will be very different, your experience will be radically different. It's just as simple as that. A narrative in the context of a game is something which is finite at the start and the end. Journey always keeps changing. Now, within the whole context and space of information design and information arts, it's very, very important to know what do I curate or pick as a topic around which I can weave a narrative. That's one part. The second part is, once I'm weaving a narrative, do I even know whom I want to convey it to? Because an old person might understand a narrative in a different way. A child understands it in a very different way. A teenager will understand.
Krishna, I think your connection has stopped. I'm going to just step in for Krishna. So like he was just saying that, your audience can be completely different. And how do you convey information to diverse audiences? How do you connect with people who are from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different communities, different age groups, different countries and languages? So there is a multiple range of audiences that you could work with, and information changes based on who your audience is. So Krishna, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just got disconnected. I don't know what exactly went wrong. So yeah. So as I was saying, it's something very, very interesting. It's something which is very dynamic. There is no one way of going about it. Now the other part of the whole thing is, how does something like game design become something which is interesting? Because as I take a look at the word of information arts and information design, it's very, very vast, it's very broad, and anything to everything is information. Anything to everything can be informative. But can I actually make it something which is a little bit more interactive, a little bit more interesting? Can I give a person the avenue to make a mistake and then understand it in a way that they'll never forget it for the rest of their lives? Games are one such amazing medium. And mark my words, it's not easy to make a game. And once you make a game, the more important part is, how can I facilitate person having or committing a mistake, learning from it, and yet having fun? Because if you don't have that fun part in it, it is just like anything else which is there outside. It is just a big blob of information which has come. which is there in front of you, but you find it hard to decipher. Games are one of the easiest ways in which you can do it, and it is one of the mediums through which information arts and information design can be curated into a form. We believe in the fact that information arts and information design is a leadership program, which basically, it doesn't mean that you literally hold a flag and walk in front of everybody as a leader. It basically means that you become an initiator, either as a person who starts initiating a change, even as a person who can highlight something and say, see, I have seen this. Do you think that there is something that can be done about this? Can we do something on this particular part together? Or it could just be as simple as, I feel something is wrong. Can I be the first person to implement a change in myself and therefore show others that yes, a small change at a small level can affect everybody else, or can make a change or create a ripple effect. So to speak in a nutshell, information arts and information design is also a leadership program for self, for the larger bunch of audiences that you can find, or for even a group of people. And kind of just look at a very longer part of the whole spectrum. Where do you end up with all of this? It's always the question which is there in everyone's mind. Okay, I've done this degree now. What are my future prospects? See, I'll give everyone the most straightforward answer I have been giving everybody. I don't know. I do not know where you will end up as, because this discipline is just as unique as that. I know for a fact that if a person does visual communication, they'll end up as a graphic designer or as a visual communicator. But for information arts and information designer, I don't know, because you are grappling with information. You can become an illustrator, you can become a graphic designer, you can become a filmmaker, you can become an environmentalist, you can become an ecologist, you can become an activist, you can become a design thinker, you can become anyone you choose to become, depending on what you feel is the way in which you want to decipher or unpack information and share it with people, right? So to just crunch my small space, you are in an extremely dynamic space. And if you can make the most of it, you will definitely end up defining who you are, what you want to become, and what you see as the future holds for you.
Thank you, Krishna. I think as we go along, we'll open up the space for all of you to ask us questions too. And as Krishna said, this is a leadership program, and it's a leadership program because we are working with contexts and communities. And I'll invite Kea to share with us some of the stories about working with communities and working with contexts that have been complex, that have been dynamic, that have been transitioning, that have been multiple levels and layers of working with how do you make meaning? Yeah, and that's really the big question. Kea, over to you.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Krishna. So yeah, going back to, actually, I'm just continuing what they are just have discussed. So it's pretty much interesting because I'm a critical geographer. So suddenly into this space, it's quite interesting to see the community's engagement, their participation from the lens of different intersectionality. So the intersectionality could be urban, rural intersectionality, it could be gender, it could be social status, it could be occupation. And as Srivi just discussed, that we are trying to narrate their untold stories. So that is more important, that we know their situation, we know their problem, but how to communicate their stories, how to communicate, how to address their stories, how to address their untold stories specifically towards the rest of the world. That becomes the, kind of USP for our program. So the thing is, it's very important that when we do our studios, we always do theory and all those things. But for us, doing the theory, knowing the theory is a grounding. It gives you the positionality on your subject. But how these theories, how this entire kind of nexus work as a framework to know the people, know your neighborhood, immediate neighborhood, know your house helpers, know your watchmen and other community, and what are their stories. And even we have our field trip, we go and we know the what is happening over there, and we try to engage community. We try to learn from them, and we try to engage them in this kind of process. that is quite interesting. And also, it is not only giving the solution, because we are not at all living over there, correct? So we are actually getting the learning, we are getting the information, and we are trying to connect with the rest of the world. How and what are the problems? Defining the problem becomes a very important kind of role, we believe. Then you can come up with the solution, because I have a background of public policy, so sustainable resiliency and all those heavy word kind of thing. But knowing the problem, positioning yourself is extremely important. Other than that, it's you are just escaping the ground reality. So I'll just keep it short. That we have a kind of very very active and very vibrant kind of faculties, and we do different things, games, and as she is a nice and wonderful storyteller. So we can actually spend a couple of hours listening to her. So yeah, Sylvie. So from my end, I am done, and I'll be happy to, question. If you have any question, I will be happy to reply all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. Now I'll invite Dyutiman, who's had a fascinating background of sciences, arts, cognition, and he'll talk about the intersection of these spaces and disciplines in the context of information arts as a program.
Thanks, Srivi. Am I audible, right? Yeah. So as wonderfully Krishna and Srivi Kaya said that Srishti Manipal University is an university of art design institute. Is an university is an institute of art design and technology. And what we are trying to do here is integrate innovation, talent, collaboration, growth seamlessly across these three different sectors: art, design, and technology. So I actually was trained as a cognitive neuroscientist and in biomedical sciences. But I had been a practicing artist from my childhood, especially focusing on painting, photography, and filmmaking. So I always wanted to join an institute like this, which allows and embraces the science and the arts domain equally. Now, my area on which I try to work on is experimental and cognitive aesthetics, which actually, put very simply, is trying to use both the artistic and the scientific disciplines together interchangeably to understand the world around us and the world within us. So my role here as a faculty, and that adds dimension in the sense that is a different dimension in the sense that what I'm trying to do is, along with trying to tell the students to produce tangible art and design products, I try to inculcate in them some aspects of the science of aesthetics and design psychology. So as we know, information arts and information design are two different things, actually. Information arts primarily deal with interpretation of the information and data. And as Srivi said, information is everywhere. And as Krishna also highlighted the fact that if you ask him the question that what job sectors we will go to, it's very difficult because we can virtually do anything, provided we actually have certain things which are on which we are very specialized upon, that is information interpretation and information visualization. Now, this is something that I try to do. And in this information age, how information arts and information design will affect the artists and designers is something very important to know. So with the boom of the information industry, we have seen that with subjects like IAIDP, the artists and the designers are no more only restricted to being practitioners. Obviously, they will practice art and design are matters of art. But with these newly emerging disciplines, what has happened is that their job prospects, their role is not only restricted to pure practices. What they can do is contribute significantly in areas of behavioral research, consumer neuroscience, for example, and even in core scientific research. So I won't elaborate on that because we have a very nice website and prospectus on the IAIDP curriculum. You're free to explore it. I'll just say that the most, I think the easier way is to give 3 examples very shortly, which I taught in my recent tenure at SMI. First was a sensory design and multi-sensory integration course, whereby I told or rather instructed and advised the students to build tangible art and design products involving sensory integration. Some of the students were very interested and they came up with a novel idea of building a machine learning tool to dissect cinema of any forms and break it down into multi-sensory hierarchies. So they were very enthusiastic, and as you can see, it's completely seamless. It's not that I am a scientist or I'm an artist or I'm an engineer. You can seamlessly explore and traverse these disciplines if you are in a place like IAIDP. The second was a photography course, and again, in this course, apart from practicing core photography, whereby we discussed about the various facets of exposure, depth of field, perspective, and several other aspects. We explored a very unique phenomena, which is known as context and inference making. So the same photograph was used to tell different stories. As you said, I mean, like as Srivi said, the storytelling and the narrative exploration can be of multiple facets, right? So we explored that concept, and they produced products. They produced exhibitions involving photography as a core art form and a form to explore the psychology of perception, emotion, color, and context. Finally, the last thing that I want to say, I have noted down some points in my notes so that I don't elaborate, because each of these points can be explored in an entire session. But lastly, I just want to say the uniqueness of Srishti and Manipal is that in this specific IAIDP curriculum, and which has never been practiced anywhere else in the world, in other fields and in other IAIDP courses across the world, is that we are bringing in the Indian context, both from the scientific and the artistic perspective. Now, what is that? When, as a scientist, as a cognitive scientist, I have seen that the Indian theory and the Indian philosophy of aesthetics and art in general, which stems back from the 1500 BCs, the modern cognitive scientists, neuroscientists, and cognitive scientists are primarily mostly blind to the enormous amount of literature that is available. We talk about emotions in Western literature, but we don't know what Bharata's Natya Shastra is. I mean, at least the West. So what we are trying to bring in is the Indian context in even investigations on art, science, design, and technology. I think I have already spoken so much. If anybody is interested, we can check the faculty profiles. And by the way, I am only 5 months here in Srishti. I can only say that all the faculties here are being selected with grueling interview procedures. So I had gone through that, and I'm very fortunate to come here and work along with the students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dutiman. So as we, right now, the 4 of us who are faculty shared diverse practices that we have. And among the 4 of us, we come from completely different backgrounds and disciplines. I have a background in art, design, and arts and education, and then ecological consciousness for my doctorate. As others shared, there is human geography here, there's game design, there's architecture, there's cognitive science, there's pure sciences. So this blend is what really brings the richness and the textures of the program to all of you. We have four students, two who are alumni of the program and two current students who've joined in. So I'm going to invite the alumni first to share what brought them to this program and how it's shaped their future. And after that, we will wind up with listening to the two students who are currently in the program. So can I invite Sonal and Prerna? Whoever wants to go first? Prerna?
Yeah, I can go first.
So
Hi,
Prerna's,
everyone.
yeah, 2018 graduate from the program. So she was with us from 2016 to 18. Go ahead, Prerna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Prerna. And like Shivi mentioned, I was part of 2016 to 18 batch. I had a background in technology before I joined Shrishti. And currently, I'm working at Oracle as a design researcher as part of the global research team. So Shivi, do I have to just talk about myself first? And
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
okay, so I'll just share a little bit of my research journey. I have been in design research field for 4+ years now. And I started from Shrishti as a research assistant, worked on curriculum design and development. Then I worked with a non-profit organization called Quest Alliance, who provide learning solutions to marginalized communities. Then I worked with Lollipop Design Studio as a UX researcher, and currently I'm working with Oracle, which is a enterprise, and I'm a design researcher there. So I think I get to practice like a intersection of tech, design, and research where I am right now. And that's like what my journey has been after being in Shrishti.
So Prerna, what do you think about the program allowed you to do this? How did this happen for you? Because I know that when you came in, you had questions about what's next for you and you didn't want to stay within the narrow boundary of technology. So
Yeah.
what do you think the program has offered you and how has it shifted your own perspective about design and research?
So I think what worked for me was like after this program, I became more aware about myself, the surrounding, the environment, and like everyone has been talking about diverse perspectives, different lenses. So all that helped me in looking deeper at whatever I'm working with, be it a solution or who like a community I'm engaging with. And all these diversity help me in the contextual understanding of, again, whatever I'm dealing with. And as a researcher, that's like a good strength. And that I gained because I was in Shrishti and because I was part of IAIDP. And yeah, and it's mainly more awareness, looking into the details and unpacking everything from diverse angles. And I think it was also mentioned that we look into the Indian context now. So as a researcher of a global team, I'm also, able to bring more Indian aspects to a global platform. Like I bring in the questions which would be more applicable to Indian audience when we are working for a software which is working at a global level. And yeah, I think the program also equipped me with tools that can help me in research, because all this, we had programs for the research, and our program also focuses a lot on the process part. We deal with the communities. So all that helped me, I think, as a researcher. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prerna. Sonal, can I invite you? Sonal graduated from the 2021 batch. And as all of us knew, it was the time of COVID, a very, very difficult time. And it brought many existential questions to all of us. So Sonal, share with us your journey of how you, sort of brought yourself to this program and
Yes.
how it enabled new doorways and pathways for you.
Thank you, Shivi. Hi, everybody. I'm Sonal, and I worked in advertising before coming to Shrishti. And after that, I was working, after advertising, when I didn't fit in, I was working with Micah in Ahmedabad as a researcher and curriculum designer. And that's when I came across the IAIDP curriculum. And I remember reading it innumerable times, Googling meanings of words I didn't understand, finding Shrivi's email ID and calling her and emailing her and haunting her with my questions. Because for me, it meant me leaving a job and having done one diploma degree and then coming for another master's degree. But I can say that it was all worth it. And even though we were, so I'm currently working with an edtech company called Caterpillar Wings. And that job also came through the Shrishti Circle, where Shrivi posted something on the IAIDP group and I wrote to them. And I work at the intersection of education and design primarily, and how design as a tool can help me question the current practices in education. And I don't think I could have articulated this before IIDP to begin with. That time I just knew I wanted to do something in education, and I was probably looking at all the wrong places. So I think for me, IIDP is, it has been the lens that has helped me fine tune my vision towards my own life. And it has helped me find my voice. I didn't know what I want to be, who I want to be. If I'm someone who can have a voice, who can put something out there. Where tools are concerned, I feel the program largely, it's a 2-year program. So to think of it like to come and get the academic rigor of a 4-year program is not going to be possible, which usually happens for the undergrads and the foundation level. But if you have some tools that you want to explore and you think this is your medium and this is what speaks to you, then I'm sure the 2 years are enough for you to put in the work and explore it to communicate what you want to communicate. So yeah, I think that's been my journey. And despite of it being a pandemic year, I feel I didn't miss out on anything except for the convocation. And where the faculty are concerned, I've had the privilege of working very closely with Shrivi, and I will call it my lifelong privilege, because they say that you can want to have a guru, but you might not find one if the guru is not looking for you. So I think that's just my deep regard for Shrivi. And I will take this moment to also say that Shrishti is also this place where you meet other people outside of your classroom. Like there are people who have inspired me deeply in Shrishti, beginning with Chatura, who taught us. There was Nupur Banerjee, who did one module with us. There was Tapasya, who blew my mind with her critical questioning. There was Ravi sir, and there were many more. So I think Shrishti has given me a lot, where even the faculty are concerned. And if I'm missing out on anyone, I don't know, I'm a little overwhelmed right now. But yeah, I think it was an overwhelming journey for me, and it was for me finding myself. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Sonal. What's powerful for us as faculty in the program is that no two student portfolios are alike. Every single student who comes in brings what they have within them, what their questions are, and they shape themselves to be people they want to be. And I think that's really where both the curriculum and the timetable are fairly individualized and personalized, even though we do have a larger structure. And very quickly to think about it, Prerna's final capstone, I remember, was in sort of reviving the Kumaoni language, where she comes from, and to really ask nuanced questions about how can we bring it back to youngsters. And Sonal's query was looking at how do we look at the questions of grief and loss for young children, and how do we help them overcome journeys of losing loved ones. And these are as different as they can be, and yet very deeply important questions in our current times. I'll now invite Abhigna, who's a first-year student, and Ojasvi, who's a second-year student in the program. They already, I can see Abhigna having a very specific trajectory, very different again from Ojasvi's. So tell us again a little bit of where you come from, what brought you to the program, and how is it shaping up for you in these 2 years? So Abhigna, yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Abhigna. I jumped right after my architecture into Srishti. So for me, it was like I want to interpret architecture through storytelling and not just sketches. I wanted to talk about architecture, write stories about it and what happens. There's so many aspects that get missed out in a sketch, but could have been described through a story. And this is what brought me to Srishti. But it's been almost a year now, and that has shifted. Now I understand it's just not architecture, and I cannot just say that architecture lies here and the story lies here. I have realized that there's much more to it. There are multiple layers, people, stories going all together, and we have to sort of unlearn to learn better. And yeah, Shrivi told me in the first class that this was about crafting the storyteller in you. So each semester, each class has been different ways of storytelling for me. How sometimes it is out of listening, sometimes it's about observation, and sometimes it's about how you feel while holding something in your hand, or how you sketch. And how that has moved. Like every semester is a different way of storytelling, and I have learned how to uh, give a structure to something that's just spoken out, like how to make tacit knowledge worth it, a common conversation between two people, how to make it seem like information. Yeah, that is where I am right now. And one more thing that changed for me was that information is giving out, and communication is getting through. This is what resonated for me, and I think I've stuck to it, and I'm trying to build this in community with communities. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Abhigna. Abhigna's work right now is really fascinating because she's working with local women quilt makers of a certain region and asking bigger questions about how that will shift conversations around culture, craft, community, sustainability, fashion. So from architecture, there's a long set of journeys she's making and connecting. So we're looking forward to see how she will evolve further in the program. Ojasvi has come to the last stage of the program. In another 5 days, she's going to finish her submissions and she's going to be ready for graduating. So yes, Ojasvi, share your journey with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Ojasvi Harish. So my background is from textile designing, and I worked for 4 years in textile industry. Like I was a textile designer for many celebrity designers, and I was being working in apparels. After that, working, and then COVID hit, and then yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you may have to go off your video if it gets disturbed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I left my job after 4 years of working, and then there was a COVID year for 2 years. Then I was always keen in building, and I was working closely with the artisans myself, and trying to build that stories, and I got to have that how the value of craft and skills can be translated into one particular sort of clothing or one particular sort of a product. And I was always interested in research practices because I've done a lot of field visits and a lot of field projects in my bachelor's. But then I was not able to find my interest and my passion. What is it? Then I was going through different courses. I've gone through different institutions as well. But when I was going through the perspective of Srishti and I came across information arts and information design, it really connected and resonated with me a lot. And when I was in my first semester and first class, so it was, when I entered, it was a vast and diverse people in my, and I have a diverse peers with me, and trying to see the diversity of the class only made me think like, okay, I'm going to learn and learn, and I'm going to learn with these people also, like their perspective will always be very interesting to add on to. So, and research methods were the most keen things which I learned across these 2 years, which really helped me gain what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to be as an artist and as a designer in my coming future. So currently, going through all this semesters, currently I'm working with Shivi on my capstone, like cultivating wonder and curiosity in nature through artistic immersion, where I have always been interested in my creative practices and where I have gotten the chance to demonstrate my illustrative and my visual power to enhance my storytelling through that. So I've worked with Kea as well, and she taught me how communities and how their stories can be weaved and can be brought up to recognize your own experiences as well, how you go through your life and how you communicate with people in your life. So that really helped me now to be in this space as a information designer, information arts and information designer. Like I am not just looking at one particular style or particular area, but it really widens my vision to see story in each and every topic and try to build that multitude of layers in it. So that really helped me, and I'm really thankful that all our faculties have been so diverse and they have given us so different perspective to look at, build an query for yourself. And they have always supported in each and every part of our journey. And there's nothing like this is not going to work, do this. It is always what you think, what you are intuitively thinking, you should go with it. Intuitively thinking is very important, which I learned a lot in Shrishti. So yeah, some of it.
Okay, thank you so much, Rajashree. I think now you can switch on your video also. So that was in short from our end what we had to say about the program. It's a long journey from 2015. So there are many stories to share. Our alumni are in extraordinarily different kinds of jobs. We have entrepreneurs, we have people who are working in the information art spaces, working with grants and funding, doing very exciting international projects. We have people in the tech industry, we have people working with medical teams, we have people working with psychologists. So the range of possibilities is very vast depending on what you bring to the table. With that, I'll open the room for the participants to ask us questions. You can raise your hand. You can also post the question in the chat window, and we'd be happy to respond to you. Yeah.
Yeah, Shruvi, I think already a couple of questions are there.
Do you want to take any of the questions?
So one question is, how much of AI is a part of our curriculum?
Okay, so at this point, the curriculum is not defined by a particular field like AI necessarily, because it becomes a part of the whole. So the 3 semesters focus on 3 big areas. One is the politics of knowledge. The second is working with communities, and the third is leadership. And within these largely structured studios, you will have access to multiple other things that you'll be doing. And each semester is worked with a certain context. In the first semester, there's a lot of emphasis on practice. In the second semester, there's a lot of emphasis on working with the community, learning how to do primary research, learning how to build that research into a certain kind of output and form. And in the third semester, you're really looking at big picture thinking, vision, system, strategy, and how does an information designer work with and an information artist work as a leader in building information into multiple different contexts of narratives. Yeah. So that's really the 3 levels. The bridge program is another question that I'm seeing, which is the postgraduate diploma program for IAIDP. In this program, you will have the first cycle of the semester where you will be sharing it with master's students. After that, you'll be picking up some of the, a lot more of the making and technical skills and research skills as part of your bridge semester, both the semesters. There's a short project at the end of the semester, which, for instance, this year, Dyutiman and I are guiding for the students we have. And we look at ensuring that you get a small taste of what a full-fledged project would be like. So you take up a context, you research into it, you make your product, you defend and you write up about how this entire process happened. So that would be the final conclusion. So there is some shared courses, so you get a taste of the masters. There is a lot of technique practice driven sort of courses. There is research driven courses. There is some community and context driven work, and then you're doing a project. Any other questions? What is the scope for a student getting into game art and design after this course? I will let Krishna answer it further, but broadly speaking, you're not going to be doing 3 semesters of game art and design per se, right? You're going to learn how to unpack the information. You can choose to do your capstone project in game art and design that allows you to have a portfolio. You can also do several other of your assignments in discussion with your faculty if you want to specialize in that. So there is a possibility for you to look at game art and design. If you bring that interest and you have the faculty, it may or may not be a taught course for you, but you will be able to work with the faculty available and build it into your own practice. Krishna, anything else you want to add?
Just one other thing, Shivi, is like, as I had said before, information is always there all around. Game is one medium which you use to translate that information into an interactive form. So yes, it's good to know that you find an inclination towards game art and design. But what I would also suggest is that it's good to have an open mind so that you can find one more step above game, which is more interesting than game itself, which is what we call as play. How can you play with information and curate it into dynamic forms that can help you engage, or that can help the audience engage with it? Game art is one form, game design is another form. And what are the other things that you can use to gamify information is also something that makes it very, very interesting. And trust me, designing a game and gamifying information are 2 different parts of the same nugget. So it gives you multiple spaces to, play around with things and tweak and orient your practice in the way you want to orient.
And as an example, we've had a student, I think from the 2020 batch, who worked on gamifying research questions for a psychologist or a psychiatrist to work with teens and tweens who were struggling with media addiction. So she looked at how would you gamify even to get an understanding of why they were addicted and how you could resolve it for them. So the entire research process became a process of gamifying. We have a current postgraduate diploma student who is asking, again, as Dyutiman had shared earlier, about sensory design using Buddhist thought. And she's asking, how do we gamify Buddhist idea of senses for young people to engage with creative making? And can they have a different concept of senses that will enable them to work with it? So yes, it's possible within the program, but it's not not necessarily a taught component of the program. And in general, in Srishti, when you come in, the master's is a research and self-led inquiry space. So it's a research-led inquiry which you bring to the table, and you are pretty much co-designing and co-learning with us in sense of the word. So it's a very, very highly interactive, highly self-responsible sort of space in which you engage in the masters. Sonal, can I ask you to read out your response? on AI?
Yeah, I think to me, the question felt more like a tool-driven question, and I wanted to tell them that I mean, the tool is still accessible to everybody on open source, and you can learn on it. And you don't have to learn it; you can just ask it to do things, and it will do things for you. But I think what IAIDP would do is to question the tool itself and how this invention it impacts humanity in a good, bad, or whatever way. So I think it's not about learning the AI tool, it's about questioning it in IIDP at Shrishti. So that's what I meant.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add something which Shrivi and Krishna's were discussing about. So even we have a student who is, she is in her first year. And she's also working, she's our actually continuing student in continuous. She has done our undergrad from here, and she is taking it forward as a master's student, and she's actually working on game. But the interesting thing is, as I'm very much, try to connect students with the community. So she's coming up with a game, visualizing a game where human nature coexistence can be learned, and the audience is teens or the pre-teens, so that people can get the sense of the coexistence, get the intersection that we keep on talking about, the consciousness, environmental, global warming, and all those things. So how to create those kinds of consciousness within the community itself, because as she is from this state, so she's trying to convert the languages and all those things. So can locals over there can communicate, as well as that game can be played by the outsiders as a tourist as well. So that's the entire concept. So actually you are trying to bridge both the ends of the community, or as a community participation, and we are an outsider. So how to get get that kind of participation and relationship. It's actually relationship bonding with the people and the nature. Yeah.
I'm just going to invite Partha to add a few thoughts. He's one of our faculty and has joined in. So Partha, would you be able to speak a little bit about how these intersections that Kea has just spoken of, the human and nature interactions, and where does information art and design sit within that space?
Some of those things in my network might be a little fishy. But to add to what already Shrivi, Kea, and Krishna has already expertly mentioned, and also the students have also come up and mentioned it very beautifully, is something about environment, and that is a big challenge that we all face, and because of perhaps the biggest challenge humanity is facing right now. And we do a lot of work with communities, with the economics of people, and where intersectionalities of human and nature in itself, like courses like eco-consciousness and working in the field. I mean, we have a program in which we spend a lot of time in the field to understand, per se, the natural world and our interactions with that. Not just our interactions, but the communities that live in those natural settings, and how they live, how the economy works, the green economy, and what is sustainability for that matter.
I think it's
having network trouble.
okay. There's one more last question that I'll take. I think Pratap has asked. Do we have a game and interactive media design major? If yes, will the student be learning advanced computer programming and animation techniques? And if storyboarding is a part of the major, since the students are meant to create a story within all interactive video games, etc. So Pratap, again, like I said, the focus is not technical skilling and learning in Srishti in most of our programs. We are really looking at research-based, inquiry-led thinking and learning, where you're equally part of this process of learning. And there's a lot of practice research that becomes our focus. And within this program, you have the opportunity to take the assignments and turn them into multiple spaces where you can work with these things. You will also have some options of choosing courses that are offered by other programs in Srishti as your allied major. However, it's not a technique and tool-driven taught program. It's a very inquiry-led, research-driven program where you will delve into context, you will delve into communities, you delve into self, and you will be investigating through different kinds of primary and secondary research to even understand what should the problem definition be. How do you think about what should become a creative brief, and how do you develop it into a product or an outcome? Yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. Would any of the panelists like to share anything else in relation to the questions?
If I may, actually, I just want to highlight and corroborate this fact that Srivi and Krishna said, and we also told in the beginning, that the interesting fact of information arts and information design practices is that it is not a subject that deals with a specific tool set based artwork or design work, like game designing, movie making, like photography, like filmmaking. There are subjects, I agree, there are branches of studies which specifically focus on these aspects. So what we have introduced through this webinar is that we can do virtually everything and anything. You can go to virtually any job sector, ranging from pure arts to pure science. The only thing that information arts and information design practices emphasizes upon is interpretation and visualization of data or information, which is everywhere. So as a scientist, you can play with the soil. We had done an interlude project with master's students where we told them to touch soil, not as scientists, but as artists, as designers, to explore sunlight and shadows, not as a photographer only, but as a photographer, as an artist, and an ecologist. So the questions like, if we can do this or that, you can do virtually anything, following certain specific criteria that are unique to information arts and information design practices. So when I do a photography course, it should not just end in taking pictures or exhibiting pictures which are nicely taken. It should transcend that boundary and ask what the information is from that domain which we can extrapolate and interpret and visualize. So that's specifically one of the criteria that has been accepted. And what we are trying to do is to bring in the Indian context of it. As I said, like as a cognitive scientist, it has been very shocking for me for the last 10, 15 years to know that the Western scientific ideologies are completely blind to what is written to Indian philosophy of aesthetics, even from the 1500 BCEs. They don't know about Bharata's Natya Shastra, the philosophy of aesthetics and design. So these are things that we put a tremendous emphasis upon. We speak a lot about aesthetic consciousness, ecological consciousness, and so on. So it's not a very specific tool-specific discipline. It's more about interpretation and exploration of what you have created through any means. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dithman. I think there are no other questions at the moment. I just wanted to take a moment to...
Maybe,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There was this one person, Ishita, she had just put in a line, and beyond that, there was no question asked. I thought she wanted to ask some question. So Ishita, if you don't mind, please go ahead and ask what you have on your mind.
Hello, sir. I'm Ishita Dutt.
Yeah.
Ma'am, actually, I have applied for information arts and design practices. However, in bachelor's in design, I didn't have a question in specific. I just wanted to know a little bit more about this whole course, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so
Yes,
you've applied for the bachelor's level of the program.
Yes. So
Okay.
I just wanted to get some information as to would the content that you shared right now, would the masters and bachelors have some similarities, or would the bachelors would be totally different?
The broad sensibility is similar, but there's a lot that's very different at the undergraduate level because it's a 4-year program and you are learning tools and techniques and visualization skills, and the navigation is very different at the bachelor's. So you can reach out to either Krishna or me, and we can talk to you over phone, or we can mail you back. Our contact details will be on the website. So if you
All right,
write to
ma'am.
us, then we can more specifically speak to you about the bachelor's.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. And I just wanted to very quickly take the last 2 minutes with the students who are here and the alumni who are here. What was sort of just 2 words, if possible? What were you afraid of when you first started out with the program, and what did it free you, and what did it give you as a as a thing to move forward and not to be caught up in that world of fear?
Can I go?
Yeah, sure.
It won't be 2 words, definitely.
That's okay.
But for me, it was maybe unlearning and blurring the boundaries. We have been brought up in such a conventional education system that this is the textbook, these are the 10 questions, and read. But now it's like, no, if this is the boundary, go beyond that and try to understand. So that freedom of learning and no limitation for it, I think that is what it is. And beyond all of this, it's like there's no fear here. You just, the way you teach us that hold a pencil and just start and go about it and see where will it take you. That freedom of doing things and not having fear, I think that's one of the biggest things that makes me want to learn some more.
Thank you, Abhigna. Any of the others would you like to add?
I think Ojasvi wants to say something. Otherwise, I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead, Sonal.
I think for me, it was the fear before I joined the program, the fear was whether it will make any sense. Like, I'm just jumping into this program and what am I doing? So, but I think what I went away was with more meaning that I had ever made in my whole life, I made in these 2 years. So I think it was meaning making, which I took away.
Thank you. Ojasvi?
Yeah, for me, for starting, when I first entered the first class, I was like, I think I made a bad decision. I think I cannot understand this complexity at all and this natural world at all, because I was so isolated in the work and industry exposure too much. And when up to date, now I know like who I am, and I have embodied myself and I have embodied my voice as an artist, as a designer, and I can express in any form. I can have that sort of confidence in me that I can express, I can elaborate myself as a designer and artist, and I can be as visual or as research-based as can be. So that I would taken away from Srishti, and it's like my biggest achievement till now.
Thank you. Prerna, do you want to add?
Yeah. So for me, it was a little similar to that of Sonal, because I was coming from a tech background to something which is a creative field. That's what I understood in the beginning. So I didn't know where will I end up after it, but I think it opened many doors for me. Like I was able to explore the cultural spaces, nonprofit spaces, and tech spaces. And though now I am working in a tech industry again, but it's like a multidisciplinary aspect, because I am working at the intersection of tech, design, and research, which I never thought I could do before I joined Srishti.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the faculty who've taken the time to be present here and shared their thoughts, and all the students, alumni, and all the attendees. We hope to see many of you in the program, and as the last few words of all our students were, what you really do find here is a strong sense of self-identity, confidence, courage, and a very, very powerful self which wants to connect and build relationships and make change, meaningful change in the world. So welcome to the program, and any of you can reach out to us. Both Kea and me, Sri Vidya, our details are available on the website. You'll be able to write to us. And any further questions you can discuss with us in person, over phone, or through email. Yeah. So looking forward to seeing more and more people in the Information Arts and Information Design Practices program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.